Governor Johnson, you clearly have fans who are willing to fork over money to you. I think that you raised close to $3 million online in just the first 2 weeks. What is the fundraising? Is it continuing at that pace, and what are you going to spend the money on?
Yeah, it is, and I think, of course, spending our money on name familiarity. All of our social media, all of those analytics are doubling about every 3 weeks. So we've got both Clinton and Trump right where we want them right now. They're just going to sleep, and craziest campaign season ever.
Well, how do you say you have them just where you want them? You don't have a seat on stage for the debate.
Yeah, are we going to see you in one of the debates? All three of the debates?
How are you going to get there?
I think there's a better than 50% chance that we will be, and I am basing this on the fact that, from an analytics standpoint, the fact that we're reaching 25 million people right now on social media, and we're doing it with really no resources at all. You pointed out the fact that just recently we're starting to raise very significant money. Well, what happens when we're actually able to play with this money? Well, stay tuned. I think this is going to get a lot more entertaining.
So you think you'll get to 15% support, and you'll be on that debate stage at the end of September?
Maria, I'm believing that there's a better than 50% chance that that is going to take place. And, of course, it starts with just the discontent between those two candidates, and that we are definitely different. Socially inclusive, small government, military intervention.
This isn't necessarily of concern to you right now in this campaign, but you were a Republican. Governor Weld was a Republican. Where do you see the Republican Party going? I mean, what happens in November, we obviously still don't know. But especially if Donald Trump were to lose, what's the future of the Republican Party? Do you actually see perhaps a realignment, perhaps along the lines that you've already carried out, with more people becoming attracted to a Libertarian Party? Is the Republican Party going through some really quite significant existential crisis, do you think?
I do. I think both Bill Weld and myself have verbalized that from the standpoint of really, it's okay to be a social conservative, but if you're going to try and force that on others, I think that that's a real turnoff when it comes to voters and support. And I think that's where the Republican Party has gone. Republican Party says they're all about small government. Well, that doesn't mean abolishing Planned Parenthood. And that does mean addressing the entitlements, Medicaid, Medicare. Look, Social Security. Let's not cut Social Security, but there have to be some reforms to Social Security. And military spending, these committees that have said that we could reduce bases by 20%. Well, that's not something that's being embraced at all, and yet, those involved in those military, what do we do to streamline the military? These are their suggestions.
Yeah, here's Lee Carter.
So one of the questions I've got is, people don't know you, and you talked about name recognition. What does your presidency look like, but not just in general? I'm talking about specifically for Americans' day-to-day lives. How does it feel different to them if you were to be president?
Well, just that there would be certainty. There'd be certainty when it came to jobs and the economy, and that you could always count on a couple. And Bill Weld and I are planning a partnership as president, vice president. We're not planning separate staffs. Staffs tend to divide. But when there is certainty, when there's certainty that, here are a couple of well-thought guys, two former Republican governors having gotten reelected in heavily Democratic states, being fiscally conservative and socially inclusive, I think there's a lot there that has historically shown to sell.
All right.
And be successful. I mean, people, this is, I'm not stepping off the street here. I haven't been living underneath a culvert. I did get to serve 2 terms as governor, and I'm going to argue very successfully. And I think what this campaign has the opportunity of doing is, of course, shedding light on our resumes. And I think our resumes hold up under the scrutiny that is really right now happening. It's
Governor,
a good thing.
I was just looking at Twitter. A lot of people are talking about your stance on marijuana. How much revenue do you think legalization would bring in?
Maria, I have always said that the revenue from marijuana is going to get dwarfed by the savings in law enforcement, the courts, and the prisons. We have tens of millions of Americans who are convicted felons that, but for our drug laws, would otherwise be tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. So on the revenue side, taxation side, hey, all positive, but back to law enforcement, the courts, and the prisons, that's where the human toll of prohibition of marijuana has been more enormous than the dollars.
Governor, good to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maria.
We'll be watching Governor Gary Johnson, the 1,000